Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Post Movie Podcast. I'm Steve Head. And John had to cancel. You know, I feel like I don't even know how to do an introduction without John being here.
Oh,
it's
man.
weird. And the guy who just said, "Oh, man," is Bob Chipman.
Hey, guys.
MovieBob.
Yep, MovieBob here.
Bob, where can people find you?
People can find me at escapistmagazine.com, where I'm the host of Escape to the Movies and The Big Picture. That's Escape to the Movies on Fridays and The Big Picture on Tuesdays, and my Friday column, MovieBob Intermission. You can also find me at screwattack.com, where I'm the host of The Game Overthinker, and on YouTube with my various other projects. At moviebob.blogspot.com is my personal blog.
What is... I'm sorry, I interrupted. What is the... you said you have a Friday column?
Yeah, I have a column that's attached to the Escape to the Movies that's also a column about movies. That's the written column.
Ah. You know, our plan here, man, was that we were... and we still are. We're going to do our favorite films of 2011.
Yes.
It's just that John... Okay, so we record every Friday, like at around 2.
Yep.
And so John has been reporting to The Office now. Mm. He writes for the Boston Event Guide.
Good publication.
Yeah. And so his boss put some stuff down on his desk, and he could not get away from work. So last-minute thing. We've got an empty mic across the room with a chair.
These things happen,
and John is absent. So the way it's going to work is that, like, okay, so in a few days we're going to do our worst of for 2011. I suppose we probably should have done these earlier, but I mean, I'm also thinking, like, people do these top tens too soon.
Well, also people are doing especially because we're film critics, so we see stuff like a little early. Some film
all the way
critics
up until the 29th of December.
A little early. And a lot of stuff that we've seen, hasn't even come out yet. I think pretty much everything on my list has already come out. Might actually be on DVD already. But a lot of like Extremely Loud and Incredible Close. Like most film critics saw that like a month ago.
Are they counting it in their? They're counting it in their. It's Oscar eligible.
Oh, it's Oscar eligible. I haven't seen it in anyone's top 10 because I guess people are saying it's not very good. I don't know. I didn't see it yet. But
man, it looks like pretentious.
Yeah, well, it's
Upper West Side.
I don't want to criticize that because the thing that makes it look not good is that like the kid has like this bizarre diction, and I don't want to call that as a criticism because I'm thinking, okay, either this actor has like severe Asperger's. In which case, it's not his fault, and I don't know if the character in the movie is supposed to have the same. So I don't. Maybe he does, and maybe that's part of the point. I don't want to say man, Tom Hanks' voice sounds weird in Forrest Gump, and then you go see the movie, it's like, oh, he's handicapped. I probably shouldn't have said that. It's like that, but it looks like. Okay, I haven't read the book it's based on.
Right.
Like, I understand what it's trying to do, which is it's sort of trying to reclaim the 9/11 grief thing from being like an exclusively kind of middle American right-wing red state thing and remind people that, blue state progressives...
I'm in pain just talking about this movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's like trying to remind people that, hey, blue state progressives also lost people. Like, I appreciate what it was trying to do, but it's not really feeling it for me. I don't know, I haven't seen it yet, but I don't know where it got off on that.
Man, I'm sick of the movie and I haven't even, just, ugh.
Well, everyone I know who has seen it says it's not all that good, so we'll see. I'm tired of Sandra Bullock. So.
Like last year, one of my favorite films of last year was Mike Lee's Another Year, and they didn't screen it until the 29th of December last year. Right, yeah.
Like, what are we supposed to do?
But then, you had film critics doing top tens in the first week of December. Yeah, maybe even earlier.
And because they've seen, I don't know, this whole weird schedule thing where movies that they think will only do well if it gets an Oscar nomination, they come out for critics really early on and then they wait until February after the Oscars have aired so that that needs to stop.
I was wondering if the Academy, just as an idea, did the qualifying run. Let's say you had to have a 2-week qualifying run, or a 3-week qualifying run.
I
mean, wouldn't that hurt that these studios using the Oscars to get free publicity?
Yeah,
out of their
I
films,
think it would. They need to do something because all it's like when people say people aren't watching the Oscars. I'm sorry, it's not just because of the bad hosting and such. It's because a lot of the movies are movies that people haven't seen, and it's not because they're like, too arty or too highbrow, or they don't speak to middle American values or whatever bullshit people spew on the internet and Fox and whatnot. It's that the movies haven't come out yet, and no one's had a chance to see them.
That is one of the problems I have, is that like I have a certain about covering movies. I am vexed about the idea that I'm going to be talking about a movie that, because they've put it out there for us to talk about, it's not out yet. So we've been talking about like The Artist for a month.
Yeah. And I'm already
it doesn't even open at the Coolidge here down the street until yesterday.
well, it's that there's what they've done is that with this making and releasing movies for the Oscar season, is they've created right down the middle a class of movie people and everyone else, where movie people includes not only people who work in the industry, but also people who write about it professionally and have an in to see stuff early, like us, to a degree. And then there's everyone else who's going to find out about this later, and then they wonder why there's this giant divide and no one knows what anyone else is talking about.
And it can go on for a month or more, and then you just end up just basically getting sick about the movie. And you have to wonder if the people, if your audience is just like going insane. Like, I'm so sick of hearing about this goddamn movie. My expectations are so high. It's
well, it depends.
It might work against the film.
Well, it depends on the audience. I work for I'm the film critic for a video game website, and I'm writing for fairly sort of, if not necessarily mainstream quote unquote mainstream publications, but definitely publications of people who are not primarily read by people who fly in and around the film industry. So a lot of the times, like my review this week is The Artist. I hope I hope people watch it and like it and enjoy it. But I'm not expecting it to be like the most popular thing I've ever put out, because who besides film critics has seen The Artist?
And when did we see it? A month and a half ago? 2 months ago?
Well, I saw it very recently, but a lot of more established critics, quote unquote, saw it sooner than that. So it's I don't know. It's the way things are. Fortunately, most of these movies that don't come out until after the Oscars that no one but critics has already seen. This year, they didn't really include a lot of movies that I liked a whole lot.
Yeah.
Like, I thought The Artist was just okay. I can already see it's probably going to run away with a bunch of Oscars.
Yeah, I was so very charmed by it.
But it's good, but it's one of those things. And like, this is me speaking as a critic who lives in this world. By the time this comes out for regular audiences, and everyone has said, this is amazing, this is the great, for like months and months and months, people are going to go see it and go, that's it?
That's what I feared. That's what I feared months ago was going to happen. People's expectations for the film would be too high.
Yeah, no, I can already tell you right now, your average Joe on the streets review of The Artist to a man is going to be, yeah, that was nifty, I guess. Boy, I liked that dog.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. People are going to love Uggy the dog in The Artist, and everyone else is just going to be, oh, okay, whatever. Jean Dujardin, the guy who plays the lead, he's very talented. They will probably pop him into an American movie that will be terrible and no one will see, and then maybe he'll be like Best Actor this year. But he will get the Roberto Benigni memorial career of being huge overseas, coming to America. We give him one award, and then within a year, everyone's sick of him, and you never hear from him again.
Man, I've got his spy movie sitting on the shelf. I haven't even watched.
Oh, the OSS movies?
Yeah,
they're awesome.
I've got is Lost in Rio the first or second one?
The Lost in Rio is actually the second one, I believe.
Yeah,
I believe is the second one. I don't know that there's a tremendous amount of continuity between the two, but they are hysterical.
Man, let me ask you, was there any rhyme or reason beyond the norm in you choosing your favorite films this year?
Not really. No, it was just sort of, well, in the case of this one, like, the list I'm working on from is the list that, because I find it very hard to usually come up with a solid top 10, but I did one as a show this year.
Yeah, mine is like totally fluctuating.
Yeah, so
at least we'll get an opportunity to talk about the other films, or at least mention them briefly.
Yeah. I just kind of went down a list of like, okay, here's the things that... The only thing that I will say about my top 10 is that the only spot that matters numerically is number one. Because I'd say like, okay, yeah, the one that I absolutely said was the favorite goes in number one. Everything else is in no particular order. It doesn't mean I like it more or less than one or the other, because I just can't do that. It's just hard to... But it was like, well, this one had a little bit better, but this one has...
Were you having trouble with your number one?
My number one was pretty clear this year. My number one was pretty clear.
Yeah.
It went back and forth, with all the other ones, and I was like, you know what, this is in no particular order. Screw it.
Yeah, on a different day, I could switch out my number one. So
these things go. So, Deb, do you want to start with it, or?
Yeah, I'll go for it.
Yeah, sure, go for it. Roll this Steve's top 10.
I went with James Gunn's Super.
Really?
That's
number 1 or number 10?
I'm working 10 down.
Okay, so it's number 10, Super.
You see, I don't want to tell you what to do, Bob. We can go the other way.
Yeah,
I could have very well just said, okay, we're working 10 down.
No. I just wanted to know what you.
No.
It's your show, man. You go in whatever order you like.
Let's do it 10 down.
Yeah, okay, 10. I've got rock on.
So that way like every other show, it just works. Yeah. It works towards the best one, like the list on VH1.
Yeah, all right, we'll just riff on one another's selections.
Basically,
yeah. Roll on. Through.
Yeah, I just found in a way, like Kick-Ass. I mean, I really digged Kick-Ass, and I can see how, people would be like, at the mere mention of that film, they'd roll their eyes,
right?
And how you could get sick of it, and how it's over the top.
Yeah, I know.
And it's it doesn't scream "love me." You know what I mean? It doesn't have a lot of heart. It just has a lot of coolness.
Yeah, it's an exploitation movie. Kick-Ass. I mean, is a lot of fun, and it's a little bit mean spirited. It's this kind of weird mix between it's one of these movies that looks like a movie for like 12-year-olds and has kind of a plot like that, but it's actually a movie for really cynical 30, 40, 50-year-olds.
The whole build up to seeing Super was terrific. I mean, because to me everything about it was this just looks great. This is great. The concept. What they're doing, the casting, Ellen Page in her costume, right. It all, it looks great. And the execution worked. I mean, it's effectively strange. Yeah. And Kevin Bacon, I know what John would say right here. This is where John comes in and says, I don't believe the man in any bad guy role that he's in. But Kevin Bacon is effectively smarmy.
Yeah. In
this role.
Yeah, it's one of those strange movies that starts out with a really sort of absurd premise. If you haven't seen Super, it's a guy. It's kind of a lonely, schlubby, possibly mentally ill guy who
there is that. Yeah,
he's
having visions.
Yeah, his girlfriend breaks up with him and hooks up with a really bad dude, and he kind of loses his mind and decides to become one of these real life superhero people that you now see in the news, who are these people in like cities that are putting on like costumes and buying body armor and trying to be like real life versions of Batman. And it basically amounts to Rainn Wilson running around in like a red body stocking, clubbing muggers and pedophiles and stuff
with a very large
with a wrench. Yeah, it's one of those weird movies that's sort of very like
the part that people forget about the superheroes is like, I don't know for me, but there's really there's a fair amount of bludgeoning.
Yeah, it's
actual physically getting hurt that you just don't rebound from.
It's a very perverse genre when you think about these movies that are like the biggest thing in the world right now are superhero movies, which are basically they're empowerment fantasies for disaffected 15-year-olds. About guys who put on flashy costumes and go up and beat up people they don't like. And this movie sort of takes on, at first seeming like it's just going to be, okay, this is making fun of the superhero thing, and then kind of takes a really hard left turn into being a kind of serious-minded movie.
Yeah,
which is very cool.
This theme though has been just entirely explored.
Yeah,
what with Kick-Ass and Super, and then there was the Woody Harrelson one that I don't remember.
Defendor,
yeah. And then there was the documentary this year, Superheroes. Mm-hmm. That genre has definitely been explored. Mm-hmm. But what it teaches you ultimately, I think, in each of these films is reality's response to the fantasy of how they're going to be protectors or avengers or the the stalwart representation of goodness.
Right.
You end up getting your head blown off.
Yeah, it ends up
it's
giving
just,
it to you.
You end up bludgeoned and crippled for life.
And yet Super still sort of manages to turn it around. It still it comes back. It doesn't, and like I think a lot of people are. I know a lot of people who said that they thought they were going to like Super and then didn't. And I think
it doesn't say like me. because there is some strange shit in this movie, and some of it is hard to follow. But it's also got like a sort of IFC feel to it. I mean, and that's and they did distribute it.
It's very much it's very much what people think of when they think, oh, here's our independent movie. Is it's a very low budget movie made on shot mostly outdoors in a couple locations, and the kind of actors you'd expect to see turning up in that kind of thing.
Yeah, and they were very gung ho about it.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that there's a certain energy about this excitement, and James Gunn's a little weird, and that makes the film. It gives it that exciting, like manic weirdness in a way.
Well, this is why you make an independent movie. This is why you shoot something like this independently, because if you were shooting this with studio money, you wouldn't get away with half this movie. They'd say, no, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that. And this one, it's like, no, they can.
Yeah.
Super's on my list, by the way, too, so we'll just knock off the ones that we share.
We're going to have some
overlap.
Yes.
Super came in at number 8 on my list, so that's on there as well, so we don't have to
replace it with something else that was on your honorable mention.
Yeah, we'll
come
roll
up
back
with
in.
something.
It's loosey-goosey.
Bob, go for it.
My number 10 spot went to Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Oh, man.
Which I thought was a terrific movie.
I totally left that off my list, and I loved it.
Yeah, it was good.
I loved it.
Well, it was good, but it's a smaller kind of like sci-fi blockbuster. It's the sort of thing that you used to see more in the the early 80s when people would make, fairly good-sized, genre movies that weren't trying to be like $300 million success stories, although Planet of the Apes did become a big success
we got
story.
some really good science sci-fi this year.
Yeah, this was a good year for genre movies. But, I mean, this was a movie that is, it's one of my favorite kinds of movies, which is a really, when you think about it, dumb idea played completely straight and taken completely seriously, which is in this one, James Franco is a mad scientist, basically. He's trying to cure Alzheimer's, and the effect of which he ends up making a chimpanzee. He ends up with basically gas that if you spray it on monkeys makes them smart. Which is a really dopey idea for a movie, but it's there it is, and it's supposed to be a prequel to the Charlton Heston Planet of the Apes, and showing this is how this happened in the new post-nuclear timeline.
It's disturbing.
Of the world.
I mean, the whole the warping of science, the genesis of a future dystopia.
Yeah, it's a strange thing, and they made this. It's one of those movies that they've made the movie so they can make the final scene, which is this giant war with these escaped, slightly more intelligent apes fighting hand to hand with police in San Francisco, and it's batshit stuff. There's gorillas knocking over police cars and throwing spears, and they never pick up guns.
Bob, but I will credit this film with having one of the most fascinating cinematic sequences was the approaching of the apes through the trees with the leaves falling.
That
was ingenious. Almost like a reverse raptor sequence in Jurassic Park.
Yeah, it's just it's like the Planet of the Apes movies were always a silly idea. You have these people in a planet full of monkeys, and they do the monkey see, monkey do thing. And this one takes that and says, okay, we're going to be just as silly, take this even more seriously, but yet, and here we go. And it's a really smart, silly movie. Yeah. And I can't wait to see where they go from here, because they say they're going to make another one, because this one was a big surprise hit. Fox has been trying to get Planet of the Apes back as a franchise, since the 90s when they made that awful Tim Burton movie. Yeah. And I want to see where this goes.
This really worked for him. I mean, Fox twice this year has 2 franchise stalwarts.
Yeah, this is a good comeback.
Real foundations that were built with this and X-Men. And I also want to say, in John's absence, that I'm pretty sure this was his number 1 film of the year.
Really?
Planet of the Apes, yes.
Okay.
I could be wrong. It could be 2. Could be number 2. But John would want me to say that. In his absence, I want people to know that this is what he thinks is just fucking tops. That and Apes videos on YouTube.
Right. And if that's and this is on Blu-ray, so if you haven't seen Rise of the Planet of the Apes, see it. Just see it. It's a great film.
And if you haven't seen the video of the ape at the Tokyo Zoo dipping a washcloth into the water and washing his face with it on YouTube, then go see that too.
Yeah.
It is entertaining. Oh my God. At number 9, I went with Sucker Punch.
Nice. All right.
You know, I didn't think you would support that, but
I really like
I
Sucker
think the
Punch.
movie has been unfairly maligned.
As do I. I have problems with Sucker Punch that are not like problems that would keep it off my list, but they're technical problems. This part of the screenplay could be tightened up a little more. This person isn't really that great of an actor / actors, that sort of thing.
Well, I think that it goes into Zack Snyder being accused of indulgence.
Yeah, well, it is indulgent, but it's indulgence with a purpose, and I think a lot of people misunderstood Sucker Punch. And now, to be fair, they misunderstood it for the reasons that they wanted it to be misunderstood. I mean, the title is not lying. The movie wants to be a sucker punch. The premise of the movie is that these girls are these girls are being held captive in various levels of reality.
It is a very wild and extravagant fantasy based on the premise that Godard puts forward, that all you need is a girl and a gun.
Right.
Just take it from there.
It goes right there, but it would take more time than we have to explain the way the plot of Sucker Punch works, but it's basically about women being held captive and having to get out of their captivity. It's a women versus men sort of story, and a lot of people, I think, looked at the posters, which are selling, look at the little girls, look at them in their little tight outfits. Hey guys, come on and leer at the girls.
I suppose obviously it could have been marketed differently, but.
Well, yeah. I think they're marketing. Well, because the thing is, again, the title of the movie is Sucker Punch, which means a big hit you won't see coming. And in the movie, the idea is that these girls are have to show off and do like a striptease thing for like these guys in order to get around them and do what they're really trying to do, which is escape.
Lead with one hand, punch with the other.
Yeah, right, exactly. And then in the movie, whenever they show, we're treated to these elaborate fantasy sequences of the girls and
they are astonishing.
Oh yeah, they're great.
I mean that zombie Nazi battle sequence in the trenches there,
awesome.
I was like, just fucking unbelievable.
Awesome. And we see these scenes, and the scenes are all about, here's all this flashy stuff, and also here are these, kind of jailbaity looking girls in the short skirts and the little fetish costumes. They look like, cosplay girls and whatnot. But then when they cut back to what's supposed to be partially reality, what we're looking at is the girls dancing on stage and guys leering at them, and the guys are the slimiest, ugliest, most disgusting thing in the world. And this is not subtle. This is the movie and Zack Snyder pointing at guys in the audience who came just to look at the girls because of the posters and saying, yeah, you see that big, ugly, rapist bad guy there? That's you. That's you staring at these little girls. Fuck you. This movie is a giant raised middle finger to its the male geek fetishism audience, and I don't think a lot of people got that. Partially because it doesn't.
I don't think I picked up on it that extremely.
Partially because it doesn't sell that much of it. It does have some narrative problems. But I admire him for taking that step of sort of making a movie that is probably the biggest example of a movie that invites an audience to the theater in order to smack them upside the head for wanting to see this, since Starship Troopers, the movie version.
Man, I was bedazzled, and in the sense that I didn't pick up on it that extremely, but I see what you're talking about.
It's an interpretation.
I thought it was
wrong.
Even Baz Luhrmann could have done this. It was a further fantasy than Moulin Rouge. It was a lot of pomp and circumstance, but action, like steampunkish in a way,
Well, Baz Luhrmann's version would have been a lot longer and a lot less.
And I'm sure a lot more frantically edited.
Yeah.
But I would like to think that Zack Snyder can do something like this again, and the fact that I think it barely broke even.
It did. This was a movie that Warner Brothers did not that Warner Brothers did not want to make. They made this movie because they like Zack Snyder, because he can do big budget stuff under budget and finish on time. They pretty much had to make this passion project for him because they wanted him to make their Superman movie, which is coming out next year.
Right.
So, and kudos to him, because I don't know that he's there yet as a serious writer, director, auteur, but this is a hell of a first time.
This says a lot about him and the risk he's willing to take. And I'm down with it. He really took a beating from fanboys.
Well,
they, in my opinion, don't really drive the success of a movie.
They can, but they certainly didn't drive this one, and I have to wonder if it's partially because they sort of understood that this movie is calling them out on some of their shit. You know, there's this whole undercurrent of movies with female action heroes that are like this is going to be so empowering for women because they're beating them up.
There's so much of that. I think like the Underworld films. There's so much about that too. But
the Underworld movies are, I think,
or Mila Jovovich,
Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Well, pretty much anything she does at this point, but Resident Evil. Yeah. Resident Evil and Underworld, though, you have to, when looking at the way those movies show off their lead actress, you kind of have to throw that into the through the prism that both of those movies are guys directing their wives in movies.
You're right.
So
right.
It's so
you're right.
Like
and I even thought that the other day when we saw the new poster for the Underworld.
Yeah, I can only I look at the Resident Evil movies and a lot of the times it's sort of like when who was it that
I could be wrong though because I don't know if Len Wiseman directed the current Underworld.
He didn't direct it, but he does produce them.
Okay.
And I mean, they jointly make these movies.
I will never forget doing press for Underworld in Toronto, and I took I had just finished doing the interview with Len Wiseman and Kate Beckinsale, and we were in the elevator going down, and they were making out in the elevator while I was like, this is a little uncomfortable for me.
Yeah, these are both movies made by guys who are if nothing else, hoorah to joy and marriage, because the Resident Evil movies and the Underworld movies are guys making
they've found their ideal woman. I mean, Paul W. Ellis Anderson is he's all about that's like he's building her playground.
Yeah, I mean these are guys making movies about how much they like their wives. How can I hate that? These these are like the most this is like when Roger Vadim was it Roger Vadim who's married to oh god, who did he well look up Roger Vadim later. He was a director who made a bunch of crappy movies with a gorgeous actress in the 70s. Was he Bridget Bardot or Jane Fonda? I think it was Jane Fonda.
We'll find out in a sec here.
Yeah, well,
Roger Vadim?
Yeah.
Brigitte Bardot?
Brigitte Bardot, yeah. So he made a bunch of...
and Jane Fonda.
He made a bunch of not terribly good movies with actresses he was sleeping with. And, John Derek, Bo Derek's husband, made the... those movies, but these ones are different because they're very kind of like woman child kind of movies, because they're female characters, but they're jumping around and shooting guns. They're cute, I can't hate them, but
is Zack Snyder involved with any of the women who are in Sucker Punch, or it's his?
I don't know.
This is basically just his statement about the women.
Zack Snyder.
I mean, that's what getting back to Godard again. I mean, that's what he did. He falls in love with his on-screen ingenue.
I could be getting this wrong. I know Zack Snyder is married. I believe he is married to the producer and co-writer of Sucker Punch and a bunch of his other movies. I don't know. That is the thing of it is that I would doubt it with Sucker Punch because the movie seems to have intentionally cast these actresses in order to sort of dig at the propensity to have these the jailbaity looking actresses. Like the movie is taking its audience to task.
You're right.
For wanting to check these girls out.
Deborah Snyder, producer of 300 Watchmen.
There you go. So I have a feeling he would probably not be, because he made this movie and the whole premise of this movie is stop degrading these girls. So I don't know. It's a different sort of thing, but kudos.
It's a wild one. Plus, I loved the integration of the music with the movie.
Yeah, it's
and the way it just
and you'll notice these are going back to the movie. These are all traditionally male fronted rock songs, other than White Rabbit. These are either rock songs sung by women or covered by women on the score.
Oh yeah,
so
and
it's
the Queen piece, which I thought was a real standout.
Yeah, it pretty well put together. Sucker Punch didn't make my top 10, but it's definitely something I think people should see.
What do you have for number 9?
Number 9, I had. Sorry, talking to the mic, Bob.
Yeah. It doesn't hurt to get closer to the mic.
He's like, chocolate rain. Breathe away from the mic.
See, I think I might be. If I'm too close and you're too far away from your mic, then it's like our voices are imbalanced or something like that. My problem is I got to remember to stay away from the mic. Anyway.
Right. Well, you got the phones on, so you don't want the interference.
Yeah.
My number 9 was Hannah. Which is
I'm glad you picked that one. I was considering that.
Yeah, Hannah was good. A lot of people didn't. Again, another movie people didn't see. Big hit in Europe though. Directed by Joe Wright. Is a movie with I'm not even going to try to pronounce her name because I'm going to get it wrong, and that's mean. Saoirse. It's
Saoirse Ronan.
Saoirse Ronan, the little girl from Atonement. This is basically this is basically the Bourne Identity, like the same exact premise of the highly trained government super soldier person who's been away from the world. And
I guess we can say that, even though I considered it at the time kind of a reveal in the film. But she is able to survive certain.
Yeah. Well, it's revealed in
certain elements because she is a super soldier experiment.
It was revealed in the trailers.
Something like that.
They mentioned in the trailers. It's so and so trained. It's but it's one of these movies where we made a super soldier and then we betrayed them and now they're going to come and kill everyone.
Or you could just accept the fact that she's jumping between buildings and riding under cars and
But like the twist is, instead of it being Matt Damon or George Clooney or Chris Evans or like an adult man that they've done this to, it's a tiny little blonde girl it's in Iceland, right? This starts up.
I think so. That's where her father Eric Bana has taken her from the powers that be.
Yeah, we're somewhere Teutonic.
Yeah,
and then it moves to the U.S. and then back and forth eventually. It's or at least no, the bad guys are in the U.S. and then they go to Europe.
It was in Spain.
Yeah, it ends up in Spain. It moves around a lot. It's a lot of cool, classy European exteriors, and it's basically like there's not. It's just a really good action movie. It has a great score, but it's just kind of cool.
Yeah, I have been listening to that. I did listen to that for
the Chemical Brothers.
A couple of weeks.
Good year for electronic musicians doing scores. You had good couple years. You had the Chemical Brothers on this. Daft Punk on Tron last year. Yeah. Trent Reznor on Social Network last year, and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo this year, which is one of the legitimately good things about that movie. Which is
I got to I want to get that score.
Yeah,
I want to pick it up.
Well put together. I mean, I can't really say a whole lot about Hannah because it really is just, look, here's, would the Bourne Identity be more interesting if Matt Damon was a little blonde girl? Yeah.
Well, I think what I found, I found the film kind of, it was a little drawn out, got a little long in the end. I didn't feel it was very tight. And I used to be, at a time, I used to feel like, oh man, the more movie, the better. But, buoyancy is important.
Yeah, no, there's something
I think it lulled.
There's something to be said for leanness. The second act of Hannah's a little long. And it's a little long because they go to the root of, trying to do the, here's where the hard-boiled, killer person who's never known real humanity, sort of discover, she's basically a little girl who's
been... You know what? It's weird. It's like she's a well-intentioned sociopath.
Well, she is. She's a... It's sort of like in the Terminator 2, they have that long stretch of the second act where it's like, why do you cry? And it's it's like, we're not going to make it, are we? Humans, I mean. It is in your nature to destroy us. You see, I was in grade school when Terminator 2 came out, so I've seen that to the point of memorization.
I'm going to use that soundbite.
But we remember this, right? In Terminator 2, there's this long and kind of pointless stretch that's all about, can the robot feel? And, in a strange world, maybe a robot could be a father. And it's like, oh my god. And and the thing is, as a kid, I thought this was the most deep thing ever because I'm seeing an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie and he's talking about the end of the world and there's this scene where the two kids are shooting each other with prop guns and little Edward Furlong looks up at the Terminator like, man, we're not going to make it, are we? Humans, I mean. It is in your nature to destroy yourselves. Now I know why you cry. And I know it's something I can never do.
I'm thinking this, but you're the perfect dad.
Yeah, it's this whole big line, but great movie. But movies do this.
I think it was a deleted scene, wasn't it?
No. There's the once they break Sarah Connor.
Or was out the ordering the fast food was I think.
Yeah, that was the deleted scene when they break Sarah Connor out of the asylum, and then they go on the road and they get all shot up, and then John is suturing her wounds, and they're talking about the robot, and they go to the survivalist people to pick up their guns. They do this in every movie about a killing machine where there's they stop off somewhere and we have this quiet moment for them to get to know the world, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. tends to make things a little long, but go see Hannah because it's awesome.
Yeah, that's it'll be completely ignored at the Academy Awards.
Well,
but
of course,
it's a great little film.
No, it's, Hannah's one of those movies. It's going to, do its run. It was too much of an action movie for the art house, too much of an art house movie for the action crowd. It's going to land in rotation on, TBS movies for guys who like movies, and then everyone's going to decide that it was really good. It's like the act, like the.
It's amazing what 10 and 20 years can do to a film.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like what's on TV? Like Starship Troopers failed in movie theaters when it came out at first.
But now you think it's a classic. I'm still reeling from the fact that people think The Thing was a classic when it was so fucking trashed when it came out.
Yeah, The Thing.
As was Blade Runner.
Yeah, Thing. Well, Blade Runner made some money, but like The Thing legitimately bombed in theaters because they released it at the wrong time and all these other things. And it's. I bet.
Well, I guess Blade Runner can be explained, but at the time when The Thing came out in '82, it was so like. I so wanted. I mean, it was creepy as shit.
Oh yeah.
But now it's just a classic.
Yeah, it's.
But this is a mentality that I don't think younger film critics or movie fans understand today. Was the fact that it really was considered a bad film back in '82, and maybe a good port. I mean, it was like it was cool for Carpenter fans, but I mean,
well, that's
it's like a paradigm shift.
Well, that's the story of John Carpenter's life. Like all of his really really big movies that were like big hits at the time, people kind of remember as that was okay.
Well, this happens generationally.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like with a number of films, like The Night of the Hunter.
Oh yeah.
Total nothingness when it came out, but now Library of Congress kind of film.
Why didn't Charles Laughton make more movies?
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Yeah.
But. So that happens.
Man, I got another one that I think is going to be completely forgotten by a lot of people, but I thought it was really good.
This is number 8?
Number 8, yeah. It disturbed me. The science of it disturbed me.
Okay.
Limitless.
Ah, okay. Wow, yeah. That would have skated in, I think.
I thought that its cinematic representation of seeing through things and the brain going from one level to the next and just kind of like... swiftly moving through a different reality, like they show through a couple of sequences. Certainly in the opening credits of Limitless, but after you take this transparent pill, how it cinematically how they do this. So the movie, outside of its narrative, stands as a really kind of a neat piece of art to me, just like an artifact. The way they've cinematically conveyed. Extending one's consciousness. Yeah,
this is the best. I'm going to dance very lightly here. This is the best, visual representation in a movie of what it's like to take certain psychotropic enhancements
and seeing a double version of oneself, seeing oneself removed from their body and then looking at themselves.
Yeah,
which I think people who are meditating try to do, but when you see it in a film. It's weird and cool and disturbing, but also the science of this is very disturbing because ultimately it's, it comes back to the basic idea that power corrupts.
Right.
If not forcefully, and it corrupts in a way that you can't see behind the scenes. It's very subversively manipulative stuff. And every second of this film, I was just fucking riveted.
Yeah. It's sort of like this movie. Maybe I should mention for people who didn't see. If you didn't see Limitless, which was actually a pretty big hit when it came out when there was not a lot of competition. It actually made a really good chunk of change for Relativity Media and made.
I consider it Bradley Cooper's actual good film.
Yeah, this is where.
So I think he produced it too.
Yeah, this is a big sort of leading man moment for Bradley Cooper. But this is a movie where a guy. It's basically scanners for the age of Ritalin and ADD and mind sharpening medication, which so many people are, on and doing. This guy gets pills that let him use his entire brain so that anything you've ever heard or seen, you can call up immediately. And it's just basically, it's like jacked up Adderall, basically, for people in the listening audience who've taken or, have been on Adderall or cocaine or whatnot.
It's like a clean cocaine, but then it's actually not.
Well, Adderall is clean cocaine, though. Is what if you've ever been on Adderall for pain or whatever. Adderall is like slow time release cocaine. It's great for working through stuff, or so I'm told.
But this is the science element of this film kind of works like a comic book.
Yeah.
In other words, you use the positive or effect. I don't know if you want to call it positive.
Yeah.
You use the effect of the drug or the element, whatever it is, to remove its impurities, to make it work better than it initially did.
Yeah,
which is it's just weird.
Yeah,
it's disturbing.
It's a disturbing movie, and it's this is another movie that if you haven't seen, like, it's kind of hard to like describe it, orally to someone. You just kind of have to see it. That it's basically it's a movie where people take pills that make them into Superman simply by making them more immediately focused.
Right.
And if you see it, it's right there's like a long, like an artificially enhanced zoom like across the entire city of New York. That I think is like the opening shot of the movie where they zoom like through like the universe basically is like one of the best shots in anything of the year. It really is a tremendous movie.
It's a fascinating effect.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do it, but it's sort of like a very like snipering one's consciousness and being able to focus, and it was cool. But I was also fascinated by it's also in a way it's about drug addiction, and what people will do for it and what people will kill to do, and then it's about power, about how quickly you can get money and control people, and oh, it's messed up.
Yeah, it's a good script, well put together. It's
even in its implausibilities, it's entertaining.
Yeah, it makes sense. They introduce what the rules are right off the bat, and they stick with them. There's no like sudden turnaround that says, oh, by the way, it also does this. It's like, nope. Once you understand how this magic pill thing works, everything in it makes total sense, and it's really cool. And I think a lot of people are going to enjoy it.
I think so. If anybody out there gets the Blu-ray has an alternate ending.
Oh, really?
Which I don't think works as well as the one that they put in the movie. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's as disturbing.
Yeah.
But there is that added twist.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
Not to spoil anything.
Yeah, of course.
Moving on.
All right. Okay, so that was number 8. Your number 8.
Yeah, that was my number 8.
Okay. Well, my number 8 was Super, so we already talked about Super. So
put another one in. What else did you dig this year?
What else did I get this year?
Would you have considered like an honorable mention?
Down some alternates. Oh man, I'm on the spot.
I'll throw some titles at you. That
I might have tossed Thor on. Like, I don't think that Thor.
I thought
Thor
toyed with putting that on the list.
I thought Thor was really good. I didn't want my list to be like too genre heavy. It always is anyway. But like I really liked Thor. I think Thor is basically not on my list because Captain America is later on. And
are you admitting a bias?
I'm sorry. A little bit. Here and there. Like I really like Thor. I thought Thor was a terrific movie. It's a good superhero movie that understands possibly better than most of the other superhero movies that have been made recently, that these things are for children, and you really shouldn't try to hide that about them. Like it's the like I love the Christopher Nolan Batman movies. I love the the Batman Begins and the Dark Knight, but there's been such a trend for so long of making these superhero movies and saying, okay, these were stories that were originally made for 10-year-olds as a cutoff age that became more popular among grown-up adult fans, and now that's who we're going to write them for. So they're going to be all dark and serious and political. And then, like Batman shows up and it's like, it's about a guy in a bat costume, but it's really about terrorism and honor and family and crime and vigilantism. And then Thor shows up and it's like, hi, I'm Thor. I'm about a magic Viking from space who wants his hammer back. And it's such a different sort of thing, and I loved it for that.
You'd have thought that Green Lantern would have been able to make that similar sort of...
Yeah, you'd think so.
Cinematic presentation.
And no.
But it didn't work.
No, well, because Green Lantern is trying to do the dark thing. Green Lantern has a guy who has a magic ring that makes anything he wants, and it's a movie, and takes that and says, you know what this movie needs to be about? Ryan Reynolds feeling bad about himself in his apartment.
Or Bob, maybe it's this. Maybe... because Thor, if you think about it, it's goofy.
Yeah.
Green Lantern is goofy.
Of course it's
in other words,
they're all goofy. Part
of the success of Thor was perhaps reining in the goofiness.
Yeah.
As opposed to letting it fly like Green Lantern did.
Well, and also not...
not ignoring it. Branagh didn't ignore it, but I think they came at it from the idea that you had to inject a certain amount of Shakespearean respectability of sorts.
Treat it seriously. The thing is, like, Thor embraces its silliness and says, no, this is silly, but it's also mythological and big and Shakespearean, and, you know, it's like with, you know, Norse myths and gods and monsters, whereas Green Lantern is like, yeah, we're about space cops, but we're kind of afraid of that, so it's mostly going to be about Ryan Reynolds feeling bad about himself and, you know, Air Force office politics, and, you know, like, he's the only superhero that's, like, needed a pep talk immediately. Like, this whole movie is, you know, you've got a magic ring. Oh, I don't want it. I don't know. Maybe. And then all of, like, the other characters who don't have powers and things have to keep telling him, no, you're special. Come on, you can do it.
His $200 million therapy session.
Oh, God.
Was
I don't want to dwell on Green Lantern. This is a happy show. But I would toss Thor in, as Thor would have come in on my list. It was like a top 11 or a top 12.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. For number 7, I'm going with Drive Angry.
Nice.
This was a film that accomplished everything it set out to do.
Yeah.
And that is a success. I mean, it's over the top. It's grotesque.
Yep.
It's insane in the sense that its action is like, it just, they really amped it up.
Yeah.
And it worked. And it really worked in 3D too.
Yeah.
And it's Nick Cage playing the crazy Nick Cage that works.
Yeah.
And they get away with some, like, yes, it's over the top. Yes, it's volume to the 11 kind of stuff. But, it's
the movie Ghost Rider should have been.
Yeah. It's Ghost Rider is just tame.
Yeah,
this has some sort of thing that, you know, it's like the box on this movie has been removed, and whatever fucking animal that went into creating this fucking works. And how do you pronounce the guy's name? William Fichtner?
Yeah.
He is terrific.
Yeah,
as some sort of Agent Smith. You know, he's basically the agent of the devil.
Yeah, it's for people.
And everything about him just works.
And I don't know that a lot of people saw Drive Angry, but if you didn't, you should. It's a movie where Nicolas Cage is a getaway driver, criminal guy.
Yeah, he's imprisoned in hell.
Yeah, he died. He went to hell, which is basically a jail in the abyss, and he escapes hell in like a stolen devil mobile. It's all trying to be an homage to 1970s, grindhouse devil movies, and mainly Race with the Devil. It's mainly doing a riff on Race with the Devil. And he escapes from hell, and he's got a magic shotgun that kills monsters because his daughter. This is a nifty twist. Is he's actually he really is an escaped demon from hell, and his adult daughter has. His baby granddaughter has been kidnapped by a devil cult that wants to sacrifice it because they think they're in tune with the devil. And kind of the joke is, no, they're not. They're just posers. They're just Manson family wannabes. They have no supernatural thing. So it's a devil movie where the good guy is from hell and the bad guys are people who think they've got like a big connection to the devil.
And the real messed up guy in this film, Billy Burke.
Yeah,
awesome bad guy.
Now Billy Burke, he's the dad in the Twilight movies, right? Isn't this?
You're talking to a guy who.
Okay, well,
I've seen maybe an hour total of all of those movies and scoffed at most of it.
We may have to look this up, but I believe Billy Burke he plays the girl's father in the Twilight movies, where he's like the only likable character, and he plays like.
I think you're right.
Yeah,
I remember.
And he's the only which is how old I am. Is the Twilight movies are like teenage romance things, and the only person I can identify with is the girl's father. But like it's like, wow, I am an old man. But he is so cool in this movie. He gets it's the sort of role that I think if they made it at any other moment in time, they would have given it to like Michael Shannon or Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, Michael Shannon could have done this. Billy Burke, man, has been around, and he was just despicable, awesomely despicable in this role.
Yeah.
Plus, it has one of the most hysterical sex action scenes.
Yeah.
When Fichtner, when basically in the motel with Cage and his
Nicolas Cage is
call girl girlfriend.
Nailing,
it's just
is it
insane.
Amber Heard.
Yeah.
He's
well, I think not Amber Heard at that time.
Yeah,
that time it was some girl he picked up in a bar.
He picks up a girl and he's plowing her, and at the same time he's engaged in a gunfight.
It's some sort of like Matrix fight.
Yeah, but like you remember the scene. Everyone remembers the scene from Desperado. where Antonio Banderas is, getting down with Salma Hayek, and then guys come in and there's a shootout. This is like that, except he doesn't stop fucking to have
and
the shootout.
Yeah, it's totally in the, it's nude.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, whatever. He's like, whatever, I'm from hell, bitch. He's,
it still happens. Of course, she's like mentally scarred for life.
Yeah, but he's, it's one of those movies. A lot of people think it's really easy to do this like 70s grindhouse thing where it's just, we're just going to have a bunch of guys in grimy t-shirts and 5 o'clock shadows and throw some rockabilly
and cool
music
cars
on there and have some cool cars and everything's, it's so easy. And then you see crappy
But this movie is executed very well. I mean, the production value of it and the execution of it is done wonderfully. I mean, every scene that William Fichtner is in, from him tailing Nicolas Cage in the car and going off the bridge to him just like, I'm just going to walk to my, I'll walk. I'll eventually get there. And his just like maniacal sadism that comes from who knows where.
Yeah, whatever. William Fichtner, he's one of those guys who's always been a really, like, a lot of people are saying, William who? If you look up his picture, you'll go, oh my God, that guy, he was in this thing, and I loved him. And it's like, he's never really like, he's one of those guys who's just a little too unusual looking to be like a leading man guy, but he just rules as a great character actor, and I hope we see a little more of him after this. The director of Drive Angry actually
Jermaine Lussier.
Yep, he's going into. I believe he's on Halloween 3D. They made they've made a third installment of the Rob Zombie Halloween movies, not directed by Rob Zombie, but coming from the same continuity.
Something was so quality about this.
Yeah,
and right.
It's there's no such thing as a bad idea for a movie. There's only bad execution, and this is a goofy idea, good execution.
Yeah. I would have liked to have seen it on more critics' top 10 list, but there's a part of me that says, Steve, don't pay attention to that. Yeah, you love this movie.
Yeah, no, this it'll find the audience that it needs to find.
What else you got, Bob?
Was that 7?
That was number 7.
That was so my number 7 was to take a completely different track from Drive Angry 3D was Midnight in Paris.
Loved it.
This was a Woody Allen movie. This is a little difficult because I don't want to spoil what the movie is actually about. Because
I think it's possible. It just enough to get people interested in. It's just like, go ahead.
It's basically Owen Wilson, who no one would ever have thought of as a Woody Allen surrogate character. To be the guy, but
and not even trying to be a Woody Allen surrogate, just by fact of doing what he does and being who he is and being correctly cast.
Yeah, it's good casting of an actor who's not always made the best use of, but he is an American screenwriter who is on vacation in Paris with his fiancée and their friends, and he is a guy who is obsessed with 1920s Paris American expatriate subculture. Like, this is a guy whose idols are Ernest Hemingway and the Fitzgeralds and Salvador Dali and Louis Buñuel. And
this time period was like a significant amount of creative overlap and power.
He's the guy who worships the this must have been post World War I, right? Was World War I was. World War I was
so.
Or at least post or during.
Whenever Hemingway and
my history teacher is like pulling his hair out right
Buñuel,
now.
Excellent scene with Buñuel.
This is a guy who's obsessed with that turn of the century to 1920s point in sort of bohemian culture where the world had not yet been swallowed by the horrors of Nazism and then Stalinism and had that kind of bohemian art and culture and life swagger thing going on. And without spoiling the movie, the rest of his crew really doesn't get it and are just kind of vapid.
He's mentally suffering from what he believes is a cultural loss of that.
Yeah, he really fundamentally believes that this was like the best time ever and that he needs to get back to that. And one night around midnight while he's in Paris, something happens and his world turns upside down and the movie becomes pretty much a science fiction movie. If you want, or at the very least a fantasy movie, it makes a very big genre change, and something else happens that leads to us seeing a lot of really interesting actors in interesting cameos, a lot of great comedy, a little bit of drama scenes.
It's like a time travel flick without any of the
without the mechanics.
Yeah,
it's not explained. I guess
it's
funny,
don't stray from the path and kill a butterfly kind of thing.
Right, almost like a funny version of Somewhere in Time, to the 4 people listening who remember Somewhere in Time with Christopher Reeve.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a interesting movie, but it's a fun movie, and it also manages, without needing to kind of hammer you home a bit, sort of has a bit of a commentary on our culture right now that is kind of nostalgia obsessed and fixated on people who are like, the past was better, the modern world has nothing to offer.
But he learns a little something about that.
Yeah, there's some stuff to learn. It's
fascinating cameos from. Well, let me just the characters. There's Gertrude Stein.
Yeah.
There's Dali. There's Hemingway, who's terrific.
Yeah.
There's Buñuel.
Yeah. Dali.
Dali. Yes, Dali.
It's a very specific niche that's going to love
Man
this
Ray.
movie. Is you pretty much have to love present day character actors doing famous people that you learned about in English class. Like, this is Scott Pilgrim for English majors.
But I think what's also important here is that there's been a 10, maybe a dozen years or more where Woody Allen, at least according to his from the point of view of the people who really love his work, has been so far off base, has really not gone into like what they perceive as like the best of Woody Allen, which I don't agree with. I mean, I thought Match Point was great. I enjoyed Vicky Cristina Barcelona, if that is the correct title.
Yeah, that's
I mean, I think he's always just had it, but here it's like, for me, if I can liken it to like a batter, he just got one and hit a home run with it.
Yeah,
he's been taking some swings and he's getting some base hits and some doubles, but this one. He connected.
This is very much for the people who did like his earlier, funnier movies. This is kind of a back to formula for Woody Allen, to the extent that it's sort of an extrapolation of an old comedy routine he used to do about meeting famous people.
Really? I didn't know that.
It's a little bit. It's way before my time, but part of his stand-up routine used to be about and then Ernest Hemingway punched me in the mouth and that sort of thing. But it's a. For people that liked the original version of Woody Allen, which was, broad comedy with references for English and philosophy majors.
It was so very entertaining, man.
Yeah,
and I just sat there like enjoying it,
Yeah.
I mean,
hipsters,
smile on my face. I hate to say it because it makes me, but whatever.
Present day hipsters with parents in the education business. This will be a movie you have in common with your mom.
Hey everybody, Steve here. That was part 1 of our Best of 2011 with MovieBob, a.k.a. Bob Chipman, a.k.a. the guy who knows a lot of stuff. I want to say, our conversation went into the 3-hour range, so what we decided to do was to split it into a couple of episodes, 2 episodes. This first one being about just under an hour. The next one is going to be 2 hours, maybe an hour and a half, something like that. Probably got to edit it down. But anyway, my apologies for not getting this episode out sooner. We recorded it 2 weeks ago, and life just got in the way. I don't know what to say. But my apologies to everyone, to all the listeners for the delay on this one. But we hope you enjoyed it. And please do check back to post-movie.net for part 2, which I'm going to have up in a couple of days. I hope. God willing. Fingers crossed. We'll see.